Greetings, fellow Dota players. I recently played with a friend who maxed Q, Frostblast on Lich. I always believed that E, Sacrifice, is superior, but I really had no good argument. And without a good argument, your opinion is, well, an opinion. I mean, you can scream that your skill build is better, but you need to be able to argue why. You need to be able to convince your discussion partner of your opinion, and I simply wasn't. I really had no exact argument, something along the lines of XP advantage is greater than damage and denying XP from your opponent is amazing, but well, that's not really anything at all, isn't it? So I looked into it, so I could defend my opinion or change it, perhaps I'm wrong. And what I found out really surprised me, so I wanted to share it with you. And hopefully my friend. I really hope I get him to watch this, because otherwise this is pretty much all for nay. Well, look for yourself. First off, let's look at the skills in a wiki fashion. First, Frostblast. Frostblast deals some AoE I don't really care about. And we can add these numbers up to 125, 200, 275 and 350 damage against a single target, so an increase of 75 per level. All of this on a constant, pretty low cooldown of 8, and the mana costs start at 125, increased by 25 and then 20 onwards to 190. So pretty costly in the end. But the movement speed slow and the attack slow stay the same on all levels, meaning you will get the same number of her auto attack harasses in, and you will get the same utility out of the spell on level 1 as on level 4, not as with Crystal Maiden with a slow amount and duration, and the root duration increases as well as the damage. And this is now the case for most spells, be it Lina or be it Venge. It is much of the same story with Ice Armor. You get a constant 40 seconds, which really should stand down here or here. You get a constant slow duration, constant movement slow, constant enemy attack slow, even a constant cooldown and mana costs. The only thing changing is the armor amount, and that only by 2, which makes armor one of the best level 1 value skill points. But we don't care about Ice Armor, I just wanted to talk about an amazing skill here, because 30% slow for everything that hits you. Man, that's amazing. Let's get to Sacrifice. And with get to Sacrifice, I mean let's talk about Sacrifice, because Sacrifice is a friendly creep and converts its current hit points into mana for Lich. With increased health conversion is not really all that Sacrifice does. Of course it kills a friendly creep and gives you mana, more per level, but that's not all. It basically takes one of your creeps, says this creep is now an opponent's creep, kills it and spreads the XP in the usual AoE for all allies. But since it's an opponent creep that got killed, not the friendly that got denied, the opponent gets, well, not a single shred of anything. You are taking one creep away from your opponent and giving it to you. This is what makes Sacrifice such a great skill. The mana makes it an amazing skill. If you look at the mana cost, it stays at a constant, neglectable 25. But the cooldown, starting at a very high 60, gets heavily reduced by 14 seconds per level, down to 18, nearly a quarter of what we started with. At level 3, with a wave spawning every 30 seconds, you can deny basically a creep every wave spawn. This is why I want to skill Sacrifice. Another thing we gotta look at are ranged creeps. Ranged creeps start with 300 HP, this is important for the conversion, but they also give 90 XP, compared to their melee counterparts, which give only 40 XP. This means your side lane waves consist of 210 XP, of which the range creep makes up nearly 50%. This leads to a 300 to 110 XP split at Sacrifice level 3, if you are able to eat every range creep. This is why Lich solo often crushes in the 2k bracket, given Lich doesn't get flamed by his team beforehand. With the wiki part out of the way, we are now moving on to the math part. First off, sacrifice. Sacrifice starts as level 1 with giving you 90 XP per minute. If you deny a range creep, of course, that is, which you should basically in all situations, unless you really need the mana. One range creep has 90 XP, you've got it all 60 seconds, so you get 90 XP per minute. With a reduced cooldown on level 2, you get 117 XP, on 3 170, and on level 4 you get an amazing 300 XP. Solely off of sacrifice. Okay, you won't be able to eat a range creep every 18 seconds, but 300 XP, theoretically. There are games where I don't reach 300 XP per minute as a support. And I'm sure there are games for basically everyone out there, unless you don't play support. The other thing with sacrifice is how the mana gain increases. And this should say mana and not XP, obviously. You start off with 90, you go up to 150, 210, and then you reach 270. This is a steep increase from where we started with. A really great scaling skill. Also in this regard. Whereas the difference between the early levels is not as big as with the XP gain, for example. This, yeah, you're nearly doubling from 3 to 4, whereas here it's a constant increase of 60. With Frostblast, I said at the beginning that the damage increases but also the mana costs isn't a bad spell in itself either. As we can clearly see if we plot the damage against the mana costs. On level 1 you deal 1 damage per mana, but on level 2 it's 1.33 and it increases to nearly 2, which is really good for a spell. And really a lot of value you gain per skill point. From here on out the math really gets hard, so I decided to run a simulation, because now I could somehow try to calculate how much XP you gain and when you will sacrifice, but all of this is really hard, and I mean, we've basically got a Dota simulation that's the game itself, so I ran a simulation. So how did I run my simulation? I used a 2v1 lane as standard setup. I simulated a carry and an offlaner, which you can easily try out for yourself if you want to test this scenario or any other with Create Hero Sven, for example. And you gotta add enemy. If you want it to be an opponent, you can control all of them. And then I just sat there in lane for 10 minutes. Nobody denied anything, nobody last hitted anything. The only thing I did, I ate the ranged one on cooldown, and I harassed with Q whenever, where I paid attention that I could still use sacrifice on cooldown. So I had the mana. And I also counted the numbers of Frostblasts, and I made sure that everybody was always in XP range. So let's look at the results from the simulation. Yeah, so in the one scenario, the XP for the safe lane, both heroes were level 6 with 234 XP. And in the sacrifice build, both skilled sacrifice on level 1, don't get me wrong on that one. The question is, what do you skill on 3 and 4, and what skill do you skill on 5? Were 2 on level 6 with 325 XP. And the opposing offlaner was level 7 with 18, and level 6 with 148 only in the other scenario. And with a higher Frostblast, of course, we got less mana from sacrifice, and the Frostblasts themselves cost more. So we got off 3 level 1 Frostblasts, 4 level 2, and 5 level 3 Frostblasts. Whereas with the sacrifice build, we got off 6 level 1 and 9 level 2 Frostblasts. Which means 12 on the one side, 15 on the other. Let's see how this stacks up. With sacrifice, we got an XP differential between the off and the safe lane of an additional 368 HP. This is actually not a lot. I thought this number would be way higher. But if you look at it, if you're dual laning, you really don't get much XP. And this is assuming you're standing in lane all the time, which is kinda bad supporting in most of the cases. I assumed that you would get a much higher level in Eve quicker. This is why I thought the effect would be higher. This is basically 2 sacrifices, XP difference. But still, 360 XP is half a level, which is nothing to shun at, but it's not amazing, obviously. But the shining time of E on level 7 is still to come, so if you were to run the simulation for longer, if you play a game, the effect would be way greater. Then I counted up the number of Frostblasts and multiplied them with the damage against a single target. And the number is 2550. And now the surprising part. We did more Frostblasts on the sacrifice part, but on way lower levels. But the number still was higher, 2750. This is what really surprised me. Basically, you can say that you get more XP and you get more damage with sacrifice. As a conclusion, sacrifice gives more XP. Duh, we knew that already, but it also leads to more damage. What we gotta be concrete here. It leads to more DPS in the time frame of minutes. So you're missing burst damage. So if you wanna roam and kill on mid, those extra 75, 150 damage might really help you out. Or if you wanna TP in because somebody is diving or something like that, you really might miss the damage from a higher level Frostblast. All I wanna get at here is that you know what you're giving up, that you're making an informed decision. And that you really think about why you're doing it and what's the decision you're making. So, if you've got any feedback for me, if you think I could do something better, obviously this is a pretty bland presentation, because I don't want to pour in hours and hours and I have no tech and filmmaking or anything. If you've got an idea for a video, if you think my argument is just plain wrong, or am I missing something big, or if you think my accent is terrible, or whatever you wanna say, just send me a quick note. I would be happy to read from you. With this, good luck, have fun on the next round, and have a nice day, or night, or at whatever time you're reading this.